Ruchem Aboim, Shem Hashem, B'Shem Yirgin Shuyatayr. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's shiur from Rabbi Yakov Smith Shlita on mayim Psulim Netilas Yodayim. Water that can't be used for Netilas Yodayim. To have the great source of sponsoring a shiur, call Yirgin Shuyatayr 718-851-8651 or email ist@yeshivanet.com. Rabbi Smith.
This summer we got a call from one of the Bacham. They were in a camp, and the water for washing was always rusty. You know, they had a problem with rust, so water for drinking they filtered, but typically the water in the camp was rusty. And they were faced with a new question: can you use rusty water for Netilas Yodayim? They washed for bread. The second half of the summer, Bacham went to a different. They went for a camp already, and the water pressure was extremely strong, and the water came out. It looked like seltzer. It was bubbly, like a seltzer. Sometimes you have the foam on the top, but the whole water was like pressurized because it was a very strong water pressure. And a similar question: is that water kosher for Netilas Yodayim? And the truth is, I was zoich to learn the sugya this week, and I looked into it, and as we'll see, it's a sugya. There's a whole siman kuf samach, 15 seifim about water for Netilas Yodayim. In other words, we know that to be yotzei the mitzvah Netilas Yodayim, you have to have a keli, an apostle of keli. So the Netilas pasul, and it's a bracha levatala. But today we're going to learn the halachos of kosher water for Netilas Yodayim, because it's the same psul and the same ma'akiv if it's not the right water. So I think we could get a clarity in the sugya if we pose a very simple question. How would we define the halacha definition of water for Netilas Yodayim? And I'll give you a few choices. We know, l'mashal, water of a mikvah has certain halachos. Water for the kiyur that the kohen washed in, he washed his hands and his feet, also has very specific halachos, as we'll soon see. Then you have the mei chatas. You didn't wash with it, but you used mei chatas, water of chatas. So the question is a simple one: how do we define the halachic definition of water for Netilas Yodayim? Is it like mikvah? Is it like mei kiyur? Water of the kiyur? Is it like mechatos? Now the truth is, in svara we could understand that drinking water has to be drinkable. That's the main definition. But what should be the criterion for washing? You're not drinking the water, you're washing it. So maybe any water goes, or maybe it has certain halachos. So to get a start, we have to know one thing. The Mishnah in the beginning of Kuf Nun Ches explains Netilas Yodayim we have for two different reasons. First of all, sach truma, because Yodayim, askani is saying a person's hands are always moving. And then he says something very beautiful. Just like in the times when they had tum and tahara, a kohen was unable to eat truma unless he washed his hands. Zok the Mishnah something very, very heartwarming. Today, even though Kehanim don't eat truma, and most of us are not Kehanim, but we kept the takana of washing your hands because we hope she'ebana beis hamikdash, and then we'll have to have tahara. So it's something amazing. We wash our hands for bread once or twice a day, and it's supposed to be a built-in reminder of she'ebana beis hamikdash, a built-in exercise in tzipisa Yeshua. I hope you get the message, but that's one reason. The second reason for Netilas Yodayim is the pasuk v'skadishtem v'yisem kedoshim. V'skadishtem is mayim rishonim. So we see the importance, the motive of washing, but we don't yet see the nature for Netilas Yodayim. But I think we find it right away, because be'emes we should wonder the following obvious question: when a person comes out of the bathroom, even though many people are makbid, they wash 3 times with a keli. But the Magen Avraham at the end of Siman Zayin says there's no chiyuv of even 3 times, and certainly there's no chiyuv of a keli. You wash your hands, you wash with water. Okay, we all wash with a keli, but there's no chiyuv to wash with a keli after the bathroom. So now we could wonder, why is it so pashit that when we wash for bread you have to have a keli? In fact, there's a whole siman of Shulchan Aruch, a keli that's pasul. Why do you need a keli? Wash your hands so your hands are clean. Zok the Magen Avraham in the beginning of Kuf Nun Tes, an unbelievable yesod. He's quoting a Rashba. Just like mechatos or kiddush yadayim v'raglayim in the kiyur boi keli, just like for mechatos and or the kiyur water needed a keli, and the poskim explain how the spout was a keli, so too netilas yadayim has to have the same halachos. So we found the answer to our question. The netilas yadayim for bread is not just cleaning your hands. It has to be like mechatas and or meikiyar. And there we see this very clearly. But we see l'chayra even more. The Shulchan Aruch in the beginning of our sim and Kuf Samach, he starts off hilchas water of the tila, mayim shenishtanu marison. If the water was discolored, now it has a different, instead of the clear color of water, it's colored. Bein machmas atzman, bein machmas dava achas shenafel l'soichai. Whether it's the water itself that's discolored, well, soon see it turned yellow, or you put in a dye, a food coloring, puzzle. Now I want to tell you, puzzle means it's puzzle b'diavad, and the bracha is lavatol, and you have to wash again. This is based on a Mishnah Yodayim, Perik Aleph, Mishnah Gimel. I heard a story, I don't know if it's a true story, it seemed like it's a true story. There was a camp that had interesting asagis, and they wanted to make the most unusual color or breakout. So they went to the intake where the water came into the camp, and they put in kosher food coloring, and all the water in the camp was colored. I mean, Baruch Hashem, it wasn't like in Mitzrayim, it wasn't blood, but it was a colored water. Now, I don't know if they were thinking, but the truth is, there's no doubt about it, even though that water was drinkable, it was kosher food coloring, but it was definitely pasul, b'diavad even, for netilas yadayim. Because this is mayim shenishtanu. But the question is, what's wrong if you have a little excitement in your life, you have colored water? So the Beis Yosef in our Simon, Kuf Samach, quotes the Ra'ah in Brachas Nun Gimel, the Be'inan, Netilas Yadayim, Be'inan mayim shenishtanu tzurasan, dumya de kiddush yadayim v'raglayim. And there, Zok the Ra'ah, we have a pasuk, actually says twice mayim. One mayim teaches us it has to be mayim b'aviyosan. It has to be good old-fashioned water. Water is clear, so too the netilas yadayim water has to be clear. And so here we see clearly that it has to be like the kiyur. Because if it's not clear, it's pasul. It's essentially water, and it's just a food coloring, and it's kosher to drink, so drink it. But to use it for netilas yadayim is absolutely pasul. Now what's interesting is, in Hilchas Mikvois, Reish Aleph, Siv Chaf Hey, based on a Mishnah Mikvois, we find that water that's discolored is kosher for mikvah. Sometimes you have a mikvah, 3-day Yom Tov, it's gone colored, doesn't make a chiluk. So it comes out that we see that water for Netila is not similar to a mikvah, because colored water is pasul for Netilas Yadayim and not for a mikvah. Now what's interesting, I know what the camp did, I don't know when the color or breakout was, they should have made it between meals, because the water will not be kosher. Now if this camp had a mikvah that they decided to color as well, there's an eitzah. The Mishnah Berurah in Cotton Dalid says, if you have colored mikvah water, so what you could do is, you could toivel your hands in the mikvah, and it's good for netila. Actually it's called a tefillah. Now, you can't take out the water and wash with it, because that's mayim tinistanu marisan. But if they had a mikvah, they could hilchas, they would make it a tefillas yadayim and make the appropriate bracha. So it's interesting, we see very clearly that the reason why mayim of shinu mara is pasul, dumya the kiyar. But now we need one more point, and we'll apply this lemaisa. The Mechaber said specifically, mayim shenishtanu machmas atzman, it naturally changed, is pasul. The Taz, Magen Avram, and that's where the Mishnah Berurah seems to paskin, do not agree. And the lashon of the Magen Avram, which is similar to the Taz, he goes, why is machmas atzmam pasul? By the mechatos, mayim shenishtanu machmas atzmam is kosher. Kal v'choyim ol netilas yadayim. So here we see even more specifically, the Magen Avram and Taz hold that mayim shenishtanu machmas atzmam is kosher, because by the mechatos it was kosher. So 1 second. So why did the Mechaba asa mishtanu machmas atzmam? Obviously he held it has to be dumya to the kiyah. And the meikiyah was possible any type of shini mara. So here we got a gold mine of information. It's not both reasons, but do we need both? So the Machaba holds it has to be like both. And meikiyah also. And the Magen Avram and the Taz seems to say that if it's kosher for meichatos, it will be kosher to Yodayim as well. So here we see very much b'chush that you have to know why water has to have hilchos water. And we see both reasons definitely apply. Now, just Pasha to explain, what does it mean, mishtanu machmas atzmam? L'chayr, we think if you take water and put it in a keli and you sit and leave it for 6 months, it doesn't turn colors. So Mr. Brewer says you kept it in a klizman rav until it became green from the air. Maybe it's algae or some type of a growth. The Aruch HaShulchan and Siv Gimel said, I don't understand that. It's not true. The Metzias is not true. Water doesn't change color. It must be that there was some insects in it, and that caused a change of color. So he said, that's why it's possible, because it's machmas atzman. But it's not really. The Shulchan Atar in Siv Aleph also wonders what's wrong if it can't be changed machmas atzman. So that doesn't seem to be so negay, the halacha of it. But definitely we see an insight. Why is water has to be hilchos water, dumya the kiyar, and dumya to meichatos? But one thing all agree, we definitely don't compare it to a mikveh. Because in a certain sense, and we'll see other nafkaminas, the water of Yodayim is more chamor than mei mikveh. Okay, now Baruch Hashem, let's apply this. We have the Yisaitis, let's apply this lemais. But one thing we have to understand, when we say it's not kosher water, I don't mean in hilchos kashrus. It's drinkable. But it's possible, Netilas Yodayim, it could be even b'diavad. So first of all, we'll begin with the Shulchan Aruch in Sif Tes, because that's really the start. Let's say you have water that's not drinkable. It's spoiled, whatever it is, or it's rusty, and we wouldn't drink it. So the Mechaba says very clearly, mayim meluchim, or yisruchim, even though it has a bad odor, or morim, it's bitter water. Although a human would never drink it, but if a kelev could still drink it, it's kosher for Netilas Yodayim, as it is kosher for mikveh. So here we see klal number 1, it doesn't have to be drinkable for a human being. Even if it's affected in any way, it doesn't have to be drinkable. You'll ask me, why? Very pashut. You're not making kiddush on it. Why do you have to drink it? Why does it have to be ready for drinking? As long as it's functional, it washes your hands, that's enough. So the Mechaba says clearly that roi for klavim is enough. And here we see mikveh also. The Shulchan Aruch continues. If it has tit in it, a lot of tit, so again the same klal. If a kelev could drink from it, it's still kosher. So definitely we see that the ikka criterion is if it's drinkable for a human being. And for kelev, sorry. And the svara is, it's not kiddush from wine, it's water. And water is water as long as it is still roi for a kelev. Now, why is it the oibazoi? Why, if it's not roi for kelev, is it possible? If you're not drinking it, who cares if the kelev could drink it? Teretz is pashut. That's always a shear that beyond that, when a kelev wouldn't drink it, it lost its shem mashka. Just like in Hilchos Pesach, if a kelev doesn't eat it, it's not considered food, not considered chametz. So the fact that a kelev will not drink it is no longer mayim. It's lost its shem mayim. But once it has a shem mayim, we could say it's kosher. And the deciding fact is, would a kelev drink it? Now, why did Chazal use the kelev as a mashal? So it seems that the kelev is the most insensitive, and nothing bothers the kelev. That's why it's burned beyond achilas kelev. They say a story that a Rav Paskin that soap is not chametz. So someone said, my dog ate soap. He goes, I'm a sugar hunt. So the point is that the kelev typically is the least sensitive of all of animals. But if the kelev doesn't eat it or drink it, then about it's ois, oichel or mashk. Now, one thing we did see, that water that a kelev would drink L'chayr is fine. Oh. Now let's talk tachlis our shayla, rusty water. So the emes is, it's true that it's roi l'shtiyas kelev, but we have a more serious problem, and that is mayim shenishtanu marayim. It's a rusty brown color. So the shayla is, of course, is that enough to passel the water, even b'di'evid? But here's the question. The Metzias is, I'm not saying all rusty water in the world, but I asked Mumchim, and the boys in camp certainly told this to me, that the water they had, it was rusty, but if you leave it for a few hours, the rust settles. Because rust is basically the composition of the pot, the met of the pot, so it's not soluble. It has a certain mamoshes. So if you leave it, it settles. So now we could suggest the following. Maybe we'll say, since it will settle, and when it settles, it's clear, so it's not possible. In other words, we could say that Lamaisa, wait till it settles and use it. But it's not practical. If a few hundred boys in the camp, they're going to wait till the water in the cup settles. It takes a few hours. But maybe we'll be a little more aggressive. And maybe we'll say, if we would believe that water that settles is kosher because it's back to clear water, so maybe now it's also kosher. What's wrong with it now? Since it has the potential to separate, so it's not like dyed water, D-Y-E-D of course, that was permanently changed. This is only a problem, so wait. And maybe you don't have to wait even. And the nafkamina was, again, for a few hundred bachim on a daily basis. So the Magen Avram on our sif, nirali im choyza libriyasan kasherim. If it went back to its clear color, it's good. That's l'chayr ta'ish of the Magen Avram. Why? Soitet ezvavam beis. Now, soitet ezvavam beis is talking in a different context about a kli soita. The soita has to have a keli up for the water of the soita, and it can't be colored. So there the Gemara says, if it's colored and it can't be changed, it's a pasla keli. So the Magen Avram infers from that Gemara and soita, if the water now is colored, but it will naturally go back to its original color, it is kosher. Now, the Magen Avram is convinced that if it changes back to normal, it's good. The chayram, if it didn't yet change, it will be possible. Now, we could wonder, what's taka de pshat? Why is it all of a sudden kosher? If it was colored, let's say it's possible. And once it's possible, it's gestempeled possible. So who said it becomes kosher again? So if you look at the Pri Megadim, in Mishpah of the end of Sif Kot and Aleph, he asked this question, but he asked it even more so. And he says, if Shinui Mar is possible, so how do people have the minik, and don't forget they lived before modern plumbing, that they use water that had some mud in it, muddy water. Lemaisa, it was muddy water, it was not clean water. A kel could drink from it, big deal, but it's mayim shenistanu marayim. Zoktem Pri Megadim v'zel l'shayin kotshei. When we have water that was dyed with a food coloring or kumis, kankantoim, that never clears. Mashe'en kein bezeh, with this muddy water, bizman man, a short time yitzlu, it will clear. Ve'ein mechubar, it's not permanently bonded with the water. Uke'ilu hutzlu dami. The water is as if it is clear. The Pri Megadim in Eshel Avram, on Magen Avram Sivkat and Aleph, also he even points out Magen Avram's lashon, if it's chayza to the clarity, then it's good. Why? Ein azar b'zeh. He says, if it's there and you leave it for a short while, it will clear up, then it's kosher. By the case of the keli for the soita, you have to do a maisa to bring it back to its color. But here, bisman talya milsa, asi shaper. So Pri Megadim seems to say that if it naturally will clear up, it's kosher. When? Even right away, because it's not dirty. Now the Rav Shulchan Aruch and also wonders, how do we use muddy water? And he writes it, mayim hu ba'afa v'tit ve'ein chashav shinui. What he's saying is, this is normal water. a little mud, a little tit, because the water's from the outside, and there was no modern plumbing, there was no filtering, so it's considered clear water. In other words, that's the way it grows, quote unquote. So we have two reasons why l'chayra muddy water is good. But one thing is clear: if you waited till the rusty water or the muddy water settled, it's vadei kosher, but not 100% pashut. The Machzah Shekel in Sif Katan Aleph on the Magen Avraham, he says, well, once you have a suffix til Yodayim, suffix derbanan lahakol. But you ask me, should you use the water even after it cleared up? And if he has daiti, if you get other water, you could use it if you have no other water. But in the middle of lunch, after you wash with muddy water, you got other water, I would suggest wash again. Because maybe, indeed, once the water was puzzle, it remains puzzle. So, if you have no other choice, you could be mekel, but if you got water during the meal, wash again. Now that's a big chiddush. He's saying that the water became puzzle. But Lamaisa, the Mishtabura, he says, I don't agree to the Machzah Shekel. Because the Pri Megadim and the Rav, and he quotes both Svaras, the end of Sif Katan Gimel, both of them say that muddy water is kosher. So you don't have to wash again. If you wait till it settles, it's fine. So oy bazoy, it comes out without doubt, the rusty water, if you leave it settle, it would be kosher. The big chiddush is, l'chayra, can you use it when right now it's rusty, but it will naturally settle? So l'chayra, this is totally in the two reasons. If you go with the Pri Megadim's reasons, that since it naturally clears commanded tzaludami, it should come out that even now in its rusty state it is kosher. Like the Rav, it's hard to say that, because the Rav says it's natural for water to be with mud, because in those days the water was outside. But will we say that natural growth of water is rusty? I mean, if you have rusty pipes in an old camp, you have rusty water. But then I found a real treat, because we're talking about rusty waters, they get to some places. All the Heintige Paiskim discuss a different shaila, and that is when you have water coming out of a sink, if it has a very strong pressure. So either all the water looks like seltzer, it gets full of bubbles, air bubbles, or minimally there's a film on the top, we call it a foam, but from the water pressure, the top is not clear water. So all the Paiskim wonder, can that water kosher till Sedayim? So the Or Letzion in Siman Yud Aleph Sif Zayin, he says, what's the problem? It's kosher even when the foam is still there. Why? Ayin Pri Megadim. What's it mean to say? Beautiful. Pri Megadim seems to say, since it will clear, commanded solidami. So right now it's kosher. Rabbi Soyan Kefish and Evan Yisrael Chelik Zayin Siman Yud has this shaila, but he points out, according to the Rav, maybe it's not so pashut. Because you can't say the growth of water is to have bubbles. If you have a very strong pressure, maybe it has bubbles. But then he says a chiddush. This is typical of him, he's very practical. He says maybe in the cup, it still has the foam. So maybe it's questionable. When you pour it onto your hand, that's when counts, the foam is gone. So it's kosher as far as that's concerned. So here we see our chakira, our shaila, which reason is the ikka, is mamish our sugya. But then I saw the Minchas Yitzchak, Chelik Tesim and Yud Gimel, and he says that Enechanami, according to the Pri Megadim, he's talking about the same foam in the water, it's kosher as it is. But he says the Magen Avraham says Im Chayzel Libriyasim kosher, which sounds like when it clears up, it's good, but not right now. How could Al Pi Svara is it kosher when right now it's not kosher? What is it, a migui? Because it will go away. So his maskana, and especially according to the Rav, it's not the derel gidla mayim. He says, people have asked me this many times, I would say wait. Wait till the water, the bubbles clear. If you have no other water and you wash the way it was, I can't say you have to wash again. So we see that our question, is it kosher right now before it clears up, would be totally in the two reasons. Rabbi Yashiv and Rabbi Ephraim Chelik Vav Tes Siman Saf Yud, Lairas Nosen, Chelik Dal, Siman Ches, both say that even right now, when the bubbles are present, it's still kosher. So the chayr, I was thinking that would be the same with the rusty water. Even though it takes a little longer than bubbles, if you go with the side that it will naturally clear up, I'm not saying that's every rusty water in the world, but that's what I was asked. The chayr, like the Pimagadam, it's kosher now. Now, a bacher wants to be machmer, it's fine. We'll get, rather had a different sink, but much further down, that has clear water. But when you're washing and there's a line behind you waiting to wash, you have to machmer avas Yisrael and use the rusty water, and there's a lot what to be saimacham. I should mention, sometimes you have in a kitchen, especially in a busy Friday, whenever they're washing dishes and making food, if the water has a suds of soap, it's the same issue. Which, but that could be doesn't go away, so it doesn't actually go away entirely. But if it does go away, it's the same shayla with the same sack. Question, a simple question. Now it was the winter, people have sensitive skin, they cannot tolerate the cold tap water to wash their hands. Can they use hot water? Very hot water, lukewarm water, can they mix the water? So what's the shayla? I'll tell you what the shayla is. It's not enough to have water. You have to have water that has halachos water. Maybe hot water is not water. Maybe it's better than water. You know, someone told me, Rav Schwab, his Enikel told me, that Rabbi Chanan stayed in Rav Schwab's house when he was in America. And Rav Schwab asked him, would you like a drink? He goes, yeah, I would like a vasser tea. What's a vasser tea? So he drank plain hot water. So he called it a vasser tea. You see, hot water is not water. It's not a vasser tea necessarily, but it's a whole different thing. You take cold water and cook it to hot water on Shabbos, it's bishul deraisa. So now the question is, you think about the kia, the mechatos, mayim, soledus boy, is not water. It's steaming water. And believe it or not, that's true. It's not pashut. In Chul and Kuvav, Gemara quotes Chizkiah that ein noitin mehem liyadayim. You can't wash the yadayim with hot water. Rabbi Yochanan says, yes, you could. In fact, Rabbi Yochanan said, Ma'aser Rab, the Gedoyle Galil, Oisen came. They washed with mayim, and the Taisa spells out, mayim shayat soledas behem. Now that needs a hezbah, because if your hand recoils from the hot water by sticking your finger in, how can you wash with hot water? But Lamaisa we see, using hot water, shayat soledas behem, is machloikis amaroyim. But the question is, how do you wash with very hot water? So maybe Megitza Chanetzi, you wash, it rolls off. But the Taz asked this question, Taz and Sifkat and Zayin, and he says, actually the Smag asked this question, and he said, there it says Pashut, that Lamaisa, they use very hot water. Right? Lamaisa, if it's very hot, we do see that it maybe it's hard to do. But if sometimes they used water and they weren't sure if it was hot or not, and that was also good. Let's say it's a suffix, maybe it was too hot. They let it cool off a little bit. But maybe they should be choish, maybe it's still boiling hot. They weren't worried. Because even Lu Yitzur is boiling hot, it's still kosher. That's why he wants us to go to Doichik. But Lamaisa, he says that they didn't use boiling hot water all the time, but they were comfortable, anyway it's good. But Lamaisa, the Mechaba in Sivav, Chamia or Noitim Yodayim, Afilu, Heim Chamin Shayat Soledesbay. But, Zok the Magen Avram, don't forget the Yamsha Shloim and Chul and Perik Chesem Yud Aleph, who holds like Chizkiah, and Ayin Sham, how he works it out, that boiling water is possible, b'di'eved for Netilas Yodayim. The Beis Yosef quotes many Rishayim that hold this kosher, so that's why he paskins lahakol. But Mr. Brewer says, don't forget there yesh machmirim, and therefore we can't say it's perfectly legitimate to wash with yad soledes boy. Lamaisa, it's mutter, but it's best to avoid it. In fact, let's say a person's in a rush and he has boiling water and he can't wait. Zok the Ben Ish Chai and Kedoshim Yud Zayin, he could use the boiling water, but don't make a bracha. Because regarding bracha, we're talking about a suffix, bracha levatala. And he says, therefore, Zekanim, that darkam lital b'choyrev, mayim chamen sheyat soledis boy, use it if you want, but don't make a bracha. So we see hot water, sheyat soledis is not so pashut. The good news is that the Gemara is kemat mefurish, Mr. Bura and Sivkot and Chav Zayin quotes it, that if the water is only lukewarm, in other words, you started cooking it and you stopped it when it was just lukewarm, that's zicha kasha. The only machloikis amirayim, if it's possible, b'di'evet, is yatzer ledis by. Now, next question is negel on a daily basis, so let's learn it. And that is, let's say I can't use yatzer ledis, it's too hot, but use cold water if he has sensitive skin. Can I mix yatzer ledis by with cold water? Or more simple, I'll take the hot water out of the sink or from the urn, I'll leave it a few minutes, I'll do it in advance, I'll wait till it cools off, or paishim, or lukewarm. So to us, of course, what's the shaila? If now it's not hot, what's the problem? L'maisa Mishtabur and Sivkad Chav Zayin says, paishim is okay, and even if mitchila it was chaman sheyatzer ledis by, and it cooled significantly, now it's only paishim, it's also good. But, let me tell you, it's not so pashit. Because what's taka the svara of Chizkiah that hot water is puzzle? Why is it puzzle? What's wrong with it? Maybe it's better, why is it puzzle? So Rashi on that Gemara, use a double lashon. Bitlu v'nishtanu mitoras mayim. Hot water was changed. You want to say it's a vaisatei, it's better? Say what you want. But hot water is not cold water. And for Netilas Yodayim you need cold water. Batlu v'nishtanu mitoras mayim. That's lashon of Rashi on that Gemara. Zogte Pri Megadim in Sivkot Ches, Oy Bazoi. One, if you hold that hot water is puzzle, how does it become kosher? Was it Chis HaMesim? Once it was puzzle, how do you make it kosher? As I state in Pri Megadim. And he bases it on Rashi. Now, this always was a chiddush to me. Water became puzzle. So, I once heard, a number of years ago, someone told me a fact, I don't know if it was true, at the time I wasn't sure it's true or not, is if you take cold water and cook it, and then you cool it off, and then you water your plants with that cold water, cooled water, it won't help the growth of the plants. Because once the water was hot, it lost the properties of water. Now, people tell, I don't know, is it true? But when I learned the sugi this week, I found a treat. The Shevet HaKosi, Chele Gimel Siman Ayim Beis, he brings this Pri Megadim that says, if you have cold water that you cooked, and it was yatzer ledis by, it's puzzle. Forever. Why is it puzzle? Now it's cool. So he says two facts. He writes from Chaykrei Hateva, that when you take hot water, cook it, you can't use it to water your plants even though it's cold. And more so, if you make a fish tank and you fill it with water that was cooked and cooled off, the fish will die. Because it kills the minerals in water, and it's not able to sustain the plant life or the fish. And that's shot of the Pri Megadim. Because when you fully cooked it, it was ice water. Baraya, it doesn't work for fish or for plants. That's what he wants to say. And he says the Pri Megadim in Hilchas Pesach and Tofnei says the same thing, that water that was cooked is ice water. And the Shaina halachos, Siman Yodayim, Sif Yodayim quotes the Chazon Ish that held water that was cooked is puzzle. Oh, now, I just want to make a point. You're wondering, Oy Bazoi, if hot water that was cooked does not become back cold water, so why do we say Ein Bishul Yesh Bishul Acha Bishul on Shabbos? By a davar lach, I thought it has the property of hot water. That's nonsense. It's not hot water. Just, it doesn't have the property of the cold water. But it's not hot water. So if it's cold and you make it nacham ala vaisete, so you have a problem. Oh. But wait, we haven't seen anything yet. The Yeshuas Yakov, in Sivkot and Zayin, nistapakti. Ladasa oisim yatzer ledis, by light Chizkiah that cooked water is possible. Will it help if I leave it and it cools off? So he says, well, maybe you'll say, once it's nitcha lo'olam. But it's not true. Because we saw beferish, if you have muddy water that clears, it's kosher. Zokt the Yeshuas Yaakov, but I have a perfect raya. Because the Gemara said that the Gedolei Galil washed in boiling hot water can be. It's not shaykh. Every day to wash in burning water, you'll burn your hands. No, Yatzer Ledis is 160 degrees. The hottest mikveh is 110 degrees, and people can't even go into it. So how do you wash with 160 degrees of hot water? He says, no, I didn't. They took fully cooked water. They let it cool off. But it's still possible. Unless you say, once it became cold again, it's back to its kashrus. So he learns the Gemara in Chulin that the reason why that they use hot water, not when it's hot water, it was hot water that cooled. So now we have a totally different picture. That although there are many mekilim, as we said, the Yeshuas Yakov is mekel, the halachos Yakov and Archaim Mem Zayin, but we do have a Pri Megadim. Pri Megadim holds that water that was hot once is pasul forever. Now, I have to explain, in plant life and fish life, it doesn't work. So how does it work for Yodayim? Teretz is pashit. Water for Yodayim has to be user-friendly for your hands. It doesn't have to be user-friendly for fish and plants. As long as you wash the hands, it's good. Lamaisa, we do see that the poisk, we did see the Pri Megadim is machmir, and the Mishnah Berurah says you want to be machmir, it's fine. But mi'ikad the din, he says that we are mekel if water cooled off, and as far as very pashut. According to Yochanan, even boiling hot water is kosher. And even those, the Pri Megadim holds that boiled water that cooled up is pasul, but the Yeshuas Yakov says it's kosher. So Mishnah Berurah is clear. Water that was boiling hot and cooled off is kosher. Now to me, a little of a aura I want to mention, the Pri Megadim himself says that water that was muddy, that cleared, is good. Hot water that cooled is no good. Ma'anishtana. Why is cooled hot water pasul and cleared muddy water kosher? I think Teretz is pashut, because the water has a temporary problem. There's dirt in it. It doesn't even belong there. Then we could say it's kosher. But the water was cooked to make it hot water, so now it is a different water. You don't cook it to wait till it clears. Probably that's the hezbah. But at the end of the day, we could say the following. Water that was yatzel by and cooled off is not 100% pashut. I have to be honest. Light the Pri Megadim, it's still pasul. But Mishnah Berurah, with his Das Torah, said it's okay. Now we could talk tachlis. A person cannot wash with regular tap water, it's too cold. He has a choice. What should he use? Water that was hot and cooled off? Water that was hot and still hot, and he added it to cold water. Which is better? So the Chayra, and the Piskei Tshuva says, and he's right, it's better to use mostly cold water and add yatzel by water. Why? Because that water, after you mix it, is vade kosher, l'choladeyis. Why? Even if you hold hot water is pasul, but it's bottled in the roiv of the cold water. But if you use the hot water that cooled off, like the Pri Megadim is pasul. So if a person, for some people, it's a daily shaila, they want to use water and they want to cool it somewhat, take out the sting of it, it's probably better to take cold water, hot water, even boiling, and mix it better than using water that cooled off. A Rabbi in yeshiva once asked me, he wanted to wash the talmid, she has young children, with water from an urn. Now, not hot water, don't worry. He used the urn that was leftover water from Shabbos. And he wanted to know, is the water kosher still? So I told him, that is not kosher like the Pri Megadim. But Mishnah Berurah was mekel. Question, someone asked me, if the water is freezing during the winter, on a nice cold winter day, the tap water is very, very cold. So I told him, we find in halacha that you're not allowed to kasher with certain utensils because it might plots to hot water. We don't find that cold water is possible to Yodayim. I mean, they had cold water. In those days, they didn't have plumbing. The water was very cold. We didn't find Shulchan Aruch too cold as possible. Of course, practically, it's a little difficult, so make sure you wash it properly. But l'chari is not possible. What I did find, and this is a fact, and this you could see it, when you wash with very cold water, the cold water runs off the hand much quicker than with lukewarm water. That's the metzias. Cold water doesn't stick to the hand, it goes off. So people wash, they think, oh yeah, I didn't wash my hands, maybe I didn't get to that. So if a person has nervin, it's not advisable to use very cold water, but there's no problem with it. Question, interesting question. Again, we live in a world, but there's a world besides our world. In some places they have a shortage of water, and they literally recycle water. I mean that seriously. They take water that's unusable and they clean it, they filter it, they process it. So they asked the Shevet HaLevi in Chelik Test, Reish Mem Aleph, Sifkat and Beis, if it was once roy, wasn't even roy for a kelev, and now it is. Can you make a tchias mayim to puzzle the water? He says, why not? If now it's drinkable. Laras Nasan, in fact, says even water that was puzzled, we'll soon see, which was malacha was done to it, which is mamash a din hamishnas puzzle. So Laras Nasan Chelik Yud Siman Chav Gimel. If they reprocess it, panim chadashes bolakan, and yes, you could use water that was recycled. Someone asked me a question, and he startled me because I never thought of this. He was traveling, he had a water bottle, regular Poland Spring, whatever it is in a water bottle. He drank some of it, but it was a 24 ounce, and he had left over 20 ounces. Berevach to wash his hands. Is it possible because he drank from the same water? No, he drank 4 ounces, he wants to use the last 20. So Pashit, we thought, why not? I mean, Yayin Pogum is a problem. But mayim Pogum to Yodayim, what should be the problem? But here we come to Yisai that we must mention. And that's really, hopefully, a share for itself, but we need at least one prat now. The Mishnah in Yodayim, Perik Aleph, Mishnah Gimel. If any malacha of any sort was done to the water, malacha meaning which you washed your hands in the water, or you soaked your bread in it, or you cooled off the wine, or you washed dishes, any malacha that was done to water is pasul. Why? There are two reasons. Either because it lost its shem mayim, now it's a functional cleaner, or once you used it, you spill it out. But whatever the case is, this is a sugya gedoyla. Maybe we'll get to it a different time. With many nafkaminas, mayim, that malacha was done to it is pasul. So now the shaila is, maybe we'll suggest, if you drank from the bottle, it's like malacha. I mean, if you soak bread in it's pasul, so maybe water drank from it is also pasul. But ibayis ein mikra, ibayis ein misvar. First of all, even if you'll tell me that you did malacha with the water you drank from, but the water that stayed in the bottle, you didn't do malacha with it. You drank 4 ounces, so maybe that's malacha. But the 20 ounce remaining is not a problem. But ibayis ein mikra, this is a beferish mechaba. In Siv Dalid, based on a Chumas Hadeshin, Siman Reish Samach, mayim shasu behem tanegoylim, a lick lake, or behem keleb, or the dog licked water, yesh misha paisel. Some hold that water that a dog or a tanegol drank from is pasul. Frek the Magen Avram. Why? And why taka do we hold the halacha l'maisa that the water is kosher? Zok the tazif cotton hay. The yalef in mechatas, the kol sheshasa kol oif mehem, chutz miyayna pasul. Why is it pasul? Because like mechatas, we know that if a bird drank from it, it's pasul. Why is it pasul? Listen, because the birds take it in their mouths and spit it out. And that's a form of malacha. So we learn from mechatas, that's pasul. So what do we see? Even a dog or other animals, as long as the water doesn't go back into the water, then it's kosher. So hadvaram kavachayma. The halacha is of a bird that drank from the water, except for yaina, is going to be pasul, right? Why? Because it goes back. But the water that we drink doesn't go back. And that's lamaisa why the Shulchan Aruch is even more makel. He says, "Ve'ein dvar of nirim ela bein be'elu bein b'chol shar bein b'chayv ha'oif yesh lahachsher." Even that doesn't bother us. But definitely we see that the water that an animal drank from, except except for a dog or a chazir, water that an animal drank from is still kosher. Kol shkein, water that a human being lahavda drank from is vade kosher. A person is traveling and he had to stop. He wanted to eat, and there was no water, and there was no water in the foreseeable future. I guess it was at night, but the ground was filled with snow. Can you wash your hands in snow? So the emphasis mitzad echad, snow is pure water, clear water. Mitzad sheni, it's not water now, it's snow. So lemaisa, this is a mishnah, and the Mechaber and Sifid Beis quotes it, that snow is not kosher for Netilas Yodayim. Why? It's not water, it's snow. In many halachos we find that something is solid is different than a liquid. But the Mechaber says, if you crush the snow and make it into a liquid, it's kosher. Now here I would add, like the Pri Megadim, that boiled water is possible forever. Is snow possible forever? The answer is no. Because it's not that you made it into a different metzias, it was frozen. So the Mechaber says that if you take the snow and you crush it, or of course if you put it in your car, drive a few miles until the water melts, the snow melts, avad is good. But Zok the Mechaber, there's another option. And that is, if you have to wash, you can't wait till the water melts, then dip your hands in the snow and let it be a form of tefillah. Now the Magen Avram points out, Mr. Burr quotes Magen Avram, that it seems like it doesn't have to be this memsa of snow in one hole. As long as there's enough snow on the ground and your hand goes on, you'll be able to immerse it entirely in the snow, that's enough. Mr. Burr sums it all up, so you've cut nun ches, that risk on if you chop the ice, the snow, and make it water, it's vade kosher. If you let it melt, it's vade kosher. Toivling Yodayim is only mutta b'shas adchak. It's not preferable, better do it correctly. The next shaila is, someone asked me, but one second. Toivling in the snow, b'diavad is good. You can't wash with snow. So how could you toivel with snow if you can't wash with snow? It's not water. I told him, you're making a mistake. Because you're allowed to toivel in a mikveh, there's no keli. Teretz is, tfilas yadayim doesn't need a keli, and doesn't need the same water. As long as you could toivel. Varaya, we said earlier, Mr. Brewer says, a colored mikveh, you can't use the water for washing, but you could toivel in it. So you see, tfilas yadayim doesn't need a keli and doesn't need the same kosher water like Netilas. So lamaisa, it's definite that it's better to wait till the water clears, till it melts, the snow melts. But avada b'shas adchak, you could be yoitza by toiveling it. Ma'isa shahaya, someone was traveling and there was no snow during the summer, but he had soda, he had juice. Can you use shar mashkim? So right away we have a few problems. First of all, bal tashchas. If you have water, use that. But lamaisa, we're talking that there was no water available. It's either using soda or not washing. Again, there's no bizi there's no bal tashchas, there's no other choice. But the problem is, l'chayra, one of two problems. Number one, it's colored. And number two, juice is not water. If you have to have water, it has to be water. So the only eitz of l'chayra is seltzer. Seltzer is water, seltzer is clear. The bubbles, but that was the bubbles dissipate. So this is a big sug in the Gemara. But in Yonenu, the Mechaber in the end of Sif Yud Beis, yesh mishayim, ein tis yadayim, rishayim, ela b'mayim b'lvad. In other words, not only wine is possible, but even may Paris, even apple cider is possible. Why? So Mr. Brewer, it's not considered water. Apple cider is not water, and you need mayim. Now I wondered, why didn't the Mr. Brewer say also the reason that it's not clear? So the answer could be pashit, because it's not water. What if say it's not clear? It's not water. And we'll soon see, maybe, since that's the way it naturally is, that's its clarity. That's the way it's clear. But then the Mechaber is a second shita, that not only is mei Paris kosher, even wine is kosher. And this sheet is up to Mr. Brewer, quoting Magen Avram, you don't need dafka mayim, which is a chiddush gadol, doesn't fit with our whole shir. But lamaisa, the paiskim quote, Mr. Brewer quotes b'shem the Rosh, wine is a blue or black color, doesn't make a chilik. It's nishtana le'ilui, it's even better. Or it's natural color. So there is a shita that colored wine, and so it would be kosher. Oh, now interesting, good point. The Mr. Brewer makes a point of saying, if you had white wine and you added coloring to make it red, that would be puzzle. Because colored water is still puzzle. It's only wine that naturally is blue or black, whatever it is kosher. But colored wine is puzzle like colored water. But then the last sheet is the kol mei peiros u'u'in l'netilas yadayim b'shas adchak, but wine is absolutely unacceptable. Sagt the Mishnah Berurah, what's pshat? Because the Maisa may Paris are only b'di'evet, and wine, even b'di'evet is not good. So Lamaisa lahalacha, we're going to say that using soda, cola soda, even though mitzarecha, you should know, it's not so bad, cola, because it's roiv, ruba, mayim. So the cola, the other ingredients, is bottle. But the problem is, it is colored water. The only thing that's kosher l'chara l'chatchel, I would think, is seltzer, good old seltzer. It's water, same water. The seltzer shaboy will dissipate naturally, and like what we said earlier, the prima gadam, you could even use it in its current state. So that's the good news. In the Orlatzian and Memvav, Siv Dalet points this out. He does add, if someone's traveling and he only has soda, so that's better than not washing at all, because we have the fact that it's roiv mayim, and he says this case that there's no other choice. It has a din of may Paris, and it would be okay. What? And achronim, that's he's saying. But the fact that may Paris. I hear what you're saying, but this is what he says. He says mashkois baltzeva. He says that says, but the evidence is better than no one. Okay, good kasha. I hear. What? Oh, of course, which is pashit, that spring water is certainly kosher l'chatchila. Now, lamaisa, the flat seltzer obviously is certainly kosher. That's once there's no longer the bubbles. A person who was traveling or is in a hotel, and bekitza, there's water only available from a bathroom. So lamaisa, to wash in a bathroom is a problem, because the Mechaber says in Siman Daled, hayotzin beis hakisei, has to wash his hands. And the Magen Avraham later in Hilchas Bracha on lightning is kamat mefurish. Hayotzei is lav dafki. He finishes asiyas tzracha. He goes in to get a tissue, but going in a bathroom creates a ruach ra, and walking out to chayiv and atila. So those bathrooms of those days, you have to wash your hands. You go out of the bathroom. So how do you wash your bread and go out? But our beis hakisei, as we know, is a big sugya. Some say the fact that everything is flushed almost immediately, and very often you do other things in the bathroom, you brush your teeth or whatever it is, wash up. So it's no longer the ruach ra dikeh beis hakisei of yesterday. So again, that's part of a big sugya, but if a person has no other choice, he has to wash only in the bathroom or nothing, let him wash in the bathroom, at least walk out with wet hands. That somehow extends the Netilas somewhat. Best would be take the water in a cup, walk out of the bathroom, and wash in an appropriate place. Because that all agree that water that was in a bathroom, just like food in a bathroom does not become puzzle, ruach ra is not good, but doesn't puzzle food, so it doesn't puzzle water. Okay, very many people are makbid not to bring food in the bathroom, but it doesn't puzzle the food. So take the water out and wash is almost a chatchila. Water that was left uncovered overnight, Zak Mishnah Berurah and Sivkat and Chav Gimel. Even if you are makbid in Gila, like the Minig Hagra, so don't drink the water. But it's kosher for until Yodayim. You wouldn't drink it, who cares? It doesn't have to be roy for shtiyah, as long as roy like l'shtiyas kelev. More so, let's say you had water left under a bed where a person slept overnight. So according to some shittas, that water is possible even with the evet. Asabano. But the Prima Godin and Mishpeh Zav Sikot and Hay and the Makar Chaim Sikot and Yabes is the same thing. Even if it's asa for shtiyah, it's still kosher until Yodayim. Why? Pashit. You don't have to drink it. So in the worst scenario, in fact, Prima Godin suggests even a Suri Hano is mutter to wash with. Mitzvah Hanukkah, very good. So water left under a bed, l'char would be kosher. And the last group of questions, Shimu Sechin Nafshechem, I'll tell you our version of the fear shilas, fear kashas. Ma'isa Shahoya, true story. Someone was by a chasana, and the same thing is in Italy, and when people go on a trip and a camp, it's very negeya. So they bring along a huge bucket, whatever, big thing of water, and they wash out of the clean water. So someone washed, like a washing station, and there's water, open water, that they worked hard to schlep the water. They bring it to a place that there's no sink. And someone went with his wet hands over the clean water, and certainly some of the water dripped into the clean water. So now he has his water that he washed till Yodayim. that drip back into the clean water. What seems worse is, happens all the time, even your home, you fill up a cup of water, you're about to wash for bread, and by mistake you reach for the handle, you stick your finger goes into the water. So your unwashed finger, unlike the first case that it was a washstand, your unwashed finger went into the water. Question number 3 happened once, and I saw it, and it was not very rosy. One bach was washing by one of these overnight trips, and they had a lot of water, but not enough. And absentmindedly, he washed the Netilas Yodayim into the clean water. Boy, were they fuming. They slept the water for you to do this. Is the water taka puzzle? And the 4th question, also, someone told him he saw this, they had by a big fancy simcha, they had to have a washing statement, and the guy schlepping the water, and he brought the water to the washing station. A few minutes later, he came back, he must have cleaned the table, and his hands were greasy. So he stuck one hand into the water, and he took it out, and he went weiter. So what's the halacha? So the easiest, believe it or not, is when your hand, goes right into the clean water, the water's still kosher. You didn't wash your hands yet, but it's a Ramah. In our Simon, Sifrid Beis, Misha Loynatal Yodav Anagam Mayim, Loy Nifsulu Oisa Mayim Lenatila, V'loy Mikri Mayim Tmeim. In fact, listen to this. Mr. Brewer in Sifkot Nun Dal, it says the following. Someone walks out of the bathroom, imagine this happens in our time, they would throw him out. Walks out of the bathroom, goes over to the washing statement, and Chayf ben B'chafnav, he takes a handful of water out, and washes his hands, the water's still kosher. You hear that? We would shoot him. He takes chafnav of water, it's kosher. Why? There's the pashut. Why should it be puzzle? He didn't wash his hands, true. But that doesn't have the ability to be matama the water. Zok the Mishtabura, in Sivkot and Dal, really the Magen Avraham spells it out even more clear. In Sivkot and Tezvav, from Trumas Hadeshem, if I wash my right hand, and it's still wet, and my left hand didn't touch my right hand, so b'shas natila, I could make from clean hand, tamei hand. But before natila, unwashed hands are not tamei enough to make the water tamei. So believe it or not, that case when someone stuck his hand in, certainly a finger, into a clean water, the water is good. The next question is fairly simple, and that is when some water from his hand, after he washed it, dripped into the clean water. So, loimi boy, if he used more than a revius of water, so any water that was on his hands is mayim tahirim, no problem. But even if lo yitzur, he used less than revius, zok mamshik and siman reish zayin, in the worst scenario, what's wrong with that water? It's mayim tmeim. Or, I'll tell you, it's mayim that malacha was done to it. But it's bottled in roi vuba of kosher water. So the third shaila sounds a little more daunting, but not so bad. If someone absentmindedly washed the Netilas Yodayim, the ganze ganzkeit, into the clean water, so again, l'chayra, if you use the revius, there's no mayim tmeim. But the serious problem, l'chayra, is that's mayim shenas malacha. The poiskim is mechaba kamas beferish. Malacha is lav dafka building. It's any benefit. Washing for cleanliness or washing for Netilas Yodayim is malacha. You can't use someone's pre-used water. So, oy bazoi, the problem is, here it's a little more problematic, because he washed with a big shissel, a big cup, a big tepel. Maybe there's no roiv. But if you know there's roiv, then you're okay. I keep on saying, if there's roiv ksherim, it's kosher. Why don't we have to have shishim? It's min b'minoi. So like the prima godim, min b'min is only the shishim you need when it's tam. But if it's the same water, roiv is enough. In fact, the paiskim point out, not only is it kosher if there's roiv, but let's say there's no roiv, you could even add water. There's no problem of, because it's not puzzle, you could use the water for other things. But what's unbelievable, and I'll leave you with homework till we get to next year, Mitzvah, is let's say the waiter, or any person, stuck his hand in, or a finger in. He had a little grease on a finger, he stuck it in. No difference either a guy, I should mention, thank you. Zok the Rav, and say the Netilas Yodayim, the Suda, Ois Yud, even a finger goes into clean water, all the water is puzzle. Why? This is Nasim Alacha. Why don't we say Bittel? So the Rav learns, as the Kitzah and Mem, Ois Tes, that once it's one body of water, then he washed his finger with all the water. The previous case, he washed it with a shissel of 20 ounces into a big vat. So you're good, bittul. But if you assume it's all one unit of water, so the Rab and the Kitzur spells it out. If one finger went into 5 gallons of water, it's Nasir ben Malacha. There's no din bittul. But the only thing is the Har Tzvi and Siman Peiches has a shayla when there was a siege on Yerushalayim, and they rationed water carefully. Someone put all the water into his bathtub, and someone stuck a finger in. So he tries to melamed schos that maybe you don't need all the water for the finger, so maybe it is bottle. We'll get to that next time. Thank you for coming. Have a wonderful day. Yeah.
Shame Irgendshuter like to be a shekarator, a smith for today's shir. After Kaddish will be a seeker of the shir. Paranya when I kash him to Geshborch or Zakis as Israel, a figure hibbenim to a mitzvah shnema the nech office of Ansita, Yagdol Terviade. Today's not about hefsek, but we still don't want to make a big hefsek. So to seek him to Yodayim.
This is what we learned today. First of all, most important, water has to be kosher for the Netilas Yodayim. Like a keli has to be kosher, water has to be kosher, evenly kuva. Like the kier, like mechatas, as we saw explained, even if it's not drinkable, as long as Reil Achilas Shtias Kelev, it's still considered mayim, but it has to have a Shem mayim. Rusty water that's settled, as we said, is l'chayra kosher the halacha. Some are makel even before it settles, but even when it settles, avada that would be kosher. Foam in the water that came from pressure, since it's basically just for a moment, many places hold it's kosher even before it settles, but definitely after it settles. Mixing hot and cold, it's advisable when a person can't use plain tap water because it's too cold, then you could then take some hot water, add it to the cold water. That's better than waiting until the water cools off. I forgot to mention Shabbos, you have to be careful with Hilchah Shabbos, so it's kedai to put hot water into a clean cup, and then you can add all the cold water, because klisheni, mayim, does not cook. Mayim does not get cooked. Very cold water is okay. Recycled water is panim chadosh is ba'olakan, even though it was once puzzle, even if mayim the malacha was done. Leftover drinking water should be kosher. Snow is not good, but allow it to melt, or toivel, whatever in the snow. Seltzer that's clear is kosher as it is. Cola, we saw tzarchin, but some are makel with that, as like May Peres. Washing in a bathroom, there's no other choice. Best would be to take the water out, or the chalapachas go out with wet hands. Water that was left under a bed or giloy is kosher for Netilas Yodayim. Unwashed hands that touches clean water is kosher, pashit. Water of Netilah that dripped in is bottle, even if it was mayim tmeim. Washed into clean water, there's a din of bittul. And worst is when someone washes even a finger, the rest of the water should become puzzle. I know the cheshmer, Moshe. He's going with the sheet that's right. No, he's going with